So we can start off with introductions. I can start.
Hey, Becky. Becky.
Yeah?
Aaron just dropped off.
Oh.
So it's just us now. I'm going to give her a couple minutes to join back in, and then if she doesn't, or do you want to, how about this? Let's give it a minute, see if she joins back in, and then let's go through a couple of the sections and see if we can't get them on tape, maybe to be used later. How about that?
Okay, sounds good.
I don't know, is it snowing where you are?
Yep.
Ice and snowing?
Yeah, today was
Exciting.
actually a snow day.
That's fantastic. I miss that.
Yeah,
I mean,
we got canceled with a solid 2 inches of snow for some reason.
Is it because it's ice? Is that? Go ahead. You can take whoever you have.
Thanks, sorry. Sorry about that.
No, you're good. You're good. Sometimes I stop talking in the middle of sentences when I'm doing something else. I'm messaging Michelle and letting her know that she was going to get on and help facilitate the presentation and do stuff like that, but doesn't. Okay. What do you think? You want to give it? I mean, I don't think we have to do introductions, but do you want to start at learning objectives and then roll through, and we'll just roll through each of the sections.
Yeah, sure, sounds good.
Great. Okay, you're on. And let me know when you want me to flip forward, and this time I'll pay attention and do it.
Okay. So today we've got 4 main points to go over. First, we're going to review the Snowflake model and the different stages of team development, and then go more in depth into learning those stages of team development. And then after that, we'll talk about team roles that are specific to ICN and ICN centers and other groups related to ICN. And then finally, we'll talk about the difference between traits that are easy to teach versus hard to teach. Next slide, please. Thank you. So here's our Snowflake model. In the last module, we talked about why the Snowflake model works and that it doesn't look different for every team. It's a very, hence the name Snowflake, everyone looks different, you know? So the Snowflake model is useful because it's got sustainable support ratios. So as we can see, there's a big dot in the center with dots around it, and then it's just very equally balanced, so no one's handling all the work or no one's not doing anything. And because of that good support ratio, it allows for specialization. So there's different people who can get really good at different things and just split up and do very well in their area. And as we can see, there's arrows pointing in multiple different directions, showing that there's good communication between everyone, allowing for things to get done and everyone to be in the loop. And again, because of that, that promotes leadership development. People can get experience doing multiple different types of things in the group and eventually become leaders. So the group in the ICN community that has a structure that looks most like the Snowflake model, I believe right now is currently the Patient Advisory Council. We've got the chairs in the middle, 3 task forces, and then members coming out. So it looks sort of like that. Okay, next slide. So these are the 3 archetype team roles. So the first one is the organizer. This is the center node. They are overseeing the functions of the group, just making sure everything gets done. They're working, trying to help the group's future, always looking out to think, how can I help the group? What can I do to make it better? And this person is generally very knowledgeable about everything that's going on in the group. They know the different functions, the different branches, just generally know what's going on so that they can help everyone get what they need to get done. So next we have the coordinator. This person is setting up all the things, the events, the meetings, activities. They're maintaining communications between team members, making sure everyone knows what's happening and when it's happening, and just generally keeping these team members engaged. They want to make sure that these people are excited and ready to get involved and know when and how to. And then we've got the team members. So this is going to be the biggest group of volunteers. These people are motivated, they're passionate, they're excited to get ready and involved with the team. So these people can also be encouraged to step outside of their comfort zone. So this will be probably the coordinator who's going to be the one urging them to step outside their comfort zone, but it can also be the organizer and other team members. So yeah, those are the 3 archetype team roles. So next we have stages of a team. So this is our ladder of engagement. So the first step in the ladder of engagement is awareness. So this is when people know about the group and they have the access to information. They know what's going on and they understand what's happening. Next is participation. It means the individuals can actually use the resources in the group and throughout the network. They can also attend events, info sessions like conference calls, community meetings, stuff like that. And then next we have contribution. So this is when the individual actually helps develop the resources. They work on the projects, they're providing their experiences and their ideas. And then lastly, we have ownership, which is when these individuals take initiative and actually lead the creation of these new resources. So example of where we can see this, again, I'm going to use the example of the Patient Advisory Council, since I'm on the Patient Advisory Council. So for the awareness, that would be when we have a new member join the group. They know what the PAC is, how it works, the different branches, what we do, etc., etc. Participation is when these new recruits actually use the tools that we give them and look through them and then attend our monthly conference calls and listen to any webinars we give. Contribution is when the individual decides to get involved with something going on in the PAC. This could be a toolkit we're doing. It could be doing the community engagement learning series, attending a community conference and helping out with that, just general development and stuff like that. And then ownership for the PAC would be these new members actually creating these new toolkits. It could be them proposing different sessions to do at community conference, proposing different projects to work on as a PAC, different innovation ideas, again, et cetera, et cetera. Next slide, please. So these are our 5 stages of a team. The first one, as it says, is potential. So this is when the patients and parents want to do more, but they don't really have much involvement beyond wanting to do more. So then stage 2 is formation. This is when those team members who are interested in participating move from awareness to contribution. They're actually doing stuff now, they're participating, they're contributing their ideas and experiences, but then the organizer is still doing most of the work. Stage 3 is team. This is when at least one other person in the group is in a leadership role besides the organizer. And then the group also has periodic contact points, like maybe monthly calls, email, etc. Stage 4 is development. This is when 4 or more people are in a leadership position other than the organizer. And this is when the team has the potential to grow exponentially because it is at that point self-sustaining. So then we have stage 5, which is transformation. This is when the team actually splits into 2 teams. It's big enough and it's self-sustaining at the point to split. So we haven't actually had that happen in the ICN community yet, but that's what it would look like. Next slide, please. Thank you. So then we see for stage 1 here, this is kind of saying like what to do. So stage 1, get more people involved. You can do one-on-one conversations over the phone, email, text, even person to person if you're close enough, and just normalize communication, like emails, calls periodically. Stage 2, you can do lots of events, different info sessions, just provide a lot of opportunities for these people to get involved and continue adding people into the group, getting them informed and trying to give them opportunities as well. Stage 3, you can invest in developing these skills in people to help test new leaders, kind of like what the community engagement learning series are doing right now, testing skills, helping people become leaders and become those developers. Stage 4 is about continuing to present these opportunities for involvement and especially leadership development. And that would be also to like newer team members. It'll escalate their involvement, get them communicating more with the community and developing them into leaders. Next slide, please.
Where I pick up, is that right?
Yeah.
Great. All right, so we're going to talk, we talked about the general structure of the Snowflake, talked about the archetypal roles, the organizer, the coordinators, and the team members, and talked a little bit about how a team can develop, what stages of development teams are in, and some activities that are good for those teams. Now we're going to talk about specific team roles. And these, I just want to remind you that these are just ideas. Any subject area that you have or any focus that your team is doing, you can create a team role or a leadership position for that. And so let's keep that in mind. These are things that we think are going to be common across care centers. So we're going to go over the archetypes again. Again, this is the organizer. It is the blue dot in the center of the snowflake, and some characteristics, some things that successful organizers tend to have in common. they're consensus builders, they're communicative, they can identify strengths and needs in others, and can connect with people from many different backgrounds. And some of the things that they do, they hold meetings, they hold one-on-one meetings with coordinators and team members and people outside the team to get new ideas and bring people together. They can convene team meetings. So that may be them being the ones who send out the email to organize having your parent or patient group meeting every other month, or maybe they're the ones who reach out to your point of contact with the care center to talk to care center staff about a new idea. They track progress and celebrate success. They share ideas that they've learned from other teams, and I already mentioned connecting with care center staff. They're going to be the main point of contact between the clinical staff and the parent and patient groups. So coordinators, these are the blue dots that you see now, kind of the next circle out. These are task masters. You could also call them project managers, right? Because they're managing a project or a group of projects for a specific subject area. They're very good at follow through and follow up. They have a passion for their subject area and a hunger to learn more. They can think on their feet and creatively problem solve. And they have the ability to identify interests of team members and what activities fit with those interests, and enough knowledge of the team generally to say, hey, it sounds like you're really interested in this other area. Let me connect you with the person who's coordinating that. A great example of this from the parent working group nationally is their research subcommittee, and they have a group of parents who coordinate the activity of parents and patients who are going to be involved in research projects. And just a great example of coordinators. There are many others from the PAC and from care centers as well. So these are, now I'm going to give you some examples of specific roles, specific tasks or subject areas that could be roles for coordinators. So one is a community builder. And community builder is going to be the person who helps set up the systems that help bring in new people to the team. They may be the ones who work with the clinical staff to figure out how you're going to let parents and families, or patients and families, know that there is a team of parents and patients that are there to help, and they'll do tools and share resources and ideas. They organize activities inside and outside of the center. So somebody who has a background in event planning, maybe somebody who's good at this. They track growth and activity goals for the center. So if you set a goal to have 10 more people join your group, they're going to be the ones who track that. And they reach out to train and recruit new team members. So if somebody signs up, this person or the people on their team are going to be the ones who reach out for the first time and say, hey, here's our team, here's what we do, what are some needs you have, here's where you can find those different resources. And Becky, I think this is actually like part of your task force on the PAC, and so I wanted to see if you could give any examples of some of the things that you do.
Yeah, so my job in the PAC is to recruit people and keep them engaged. So in this circumstance, I'm the point person for growing the team. We have people sign up on the website, and then we reach out to them with emails, and we do orientation calls to get them educated on how the group works and what the opportunities are. And then we track this person, make sure that they are aware of the opportunities for involvement, and stay in touch to make sure that everything's going smoothly. And then once they get familiar with the group, we connect them with other people in the group that they're interested in working with. For example, if we get close to these new participants, and then if we come to realize that they're very interested in advocacy and developing toolkits, they've got a lot of ideas for that, then we will put them in contact with our advocacy members. So yeah, that's a little bit of an example of what we do, just holding those one-on-one meetings and getting everyone connected.
Great, thank you. So another example of an area or of a coordinator is somebody who's the National PAC, or National Patient Advisory Council, or Parent Working Group Liaison. And so if you're not familiar with those two groups, nationally, Improved Care now has a group of parents and a group of patients that work on different projects, development of tools and resources, sharing information, and they meet on, I think each of them meet on a monthly basis. And so the PAC, or Parent Working Group Liaison, their role would be to, hi, Melissa, I see that you've joined us. I don't know if you can hear us. If you can, let me know if you want to type in the question box, and I will try to. You can hear. Okay, great. We're going to keep going. There were a couple of people who are RSVP'd. One person jumped on and had to leave early, and so Becky and I are here, and we're presenting. We're going to keep. Oh, I completely understand. What I'm trying to think of. I'm going to start this section over, so you have context for what. You know what now, Melissa? Do you think that you'll be able to stay on for like the next half an hour? Okay, great. So what I want to do. There is time that we normally have reserved at the end for discussion, but since it's three of us, in lieu of that, and until you have the context, and Becky, with your blessing, I'd love to start over, so and run through a couple of the things we've already discussed, and then if you have questions, or if there's things that we're covering, please feel free to type them in the chat, and we can just make it a conversation to whatever degree we can, and we should be able to get through in about a half an hour. Becky, ready to take it from the top?
You bet.
Great. All right. It's on you. Let me know when you want me to advance the slides.
Sounds good. Thank you. So today we have 4 different points that we're going to cover. First, we're going to review the Snowflake model, talk about what it is, where it's used in ICN, and why it's useful. Then we're going to discuss the stages of team development, what they look like, and how we can advance to them. And then next topic we'll be talking about are specific team roles to ICN centers and other groups within ICN. And then we'll talk about the difference between easy to teach traits and traits that are hard to teach. Next slide, please. So now we're going to talk about the Snowflake model. So as you can see, it's right over here on the left. And the last training module we did, we talked about how the Snowflake model was named accordingly because it is, cheesy as this might sound, it's unique to every group. It will not look the same for any group. Every Snowflake model or every team structure will look a little bit different. But the reason that this is helpful is because it has sustainable support ratios, or I should say one of the reasons it's helpful. As we can see, there's a lot of different moving dots here and a lot of arrows pointing in between these, showing that there is clear connection between all these different groups and all the different members, and that there isn't one person bearing the brunt of the work, and everyone's getting to participate and no one is having to get overwhelmed by all the stuff that needs to get done. So because of these sustainable support ratios, it means that different people in this group can get to be task masters. They can allow for specialization. They can grow their work area and become experts on that. And then again, with those sustainable support ratios, it allows for leadership development. These team members and coordinators and organizer can work together and foster new leaders within the community because of this specialization and support ratios. So the group within ICN that has the most similar Snowflake model to this would probably be the Patient Advisory Council. So the Patient Advisory Council has 2 chairs, that would be the center node, and then we have 3 different task forces, which would be the nodes outside, and then we have all of our team members. So that kind of looks like the Snowflake model. Of course, it's different for every team. No one team looks exactly like that, but that's kind of how it works. Next slide, please. So these are 3 archetypal team roles. So first we have the organizer. This is the center node of our Snowflake model. This person is overseeing everything that goes on in the group. They're monitoring events, meetings, people coming into the group, people leaving the group, conversations with other groups. Just they're generally very knowledgeable about everything that's going on in the group, and they use that knowledge of the group and what's happening in the group to work and advocate for the future of the group. They're constantly saying, how can we improve this team? How will doing this project help us? Will it help us? How can we work with other people to help them and help the group? And then next we have the coordinator. So this can be, or likely is to be, multiple people within the team. So this person or these people will be managing events, they'll be managing meetings, overseeing activities for the team, generally just keeping track of volunteer opportunities. They're going to be maintaining communications between these team members, making sure everyone knows what's going on, where and when. And they're also keeping these team members engaged and motivated. And so that's a good segue into team members, because these coordinators are actually encouraging these team members to step outside of their comfort zone. Once they're engaged and motivated, they can take a step further and urge them to do something they're maybe not super comfortable with. And then these team members, this is the largest group of volunteers, and this group is motivated and passionate and excited to get involved. So that's pretty much the 3 archetypal roles. Next slide, please. So this is our ladder of engagement here. We've got 4 different levels. The first one is awareness. Awareness occurs when the individual knows about the group, they know how the team works, and they have the opportunity to access resources or other information that the team has. Then the next level is participation. This is when the individual actually uses tools and information available in the group and in the network. They can attend events or sessions. So this could be attending community conference, attending monthly phone calls, answering group emails, different things like that. Then we have contribution. This is when part of the team or the individual is helping to develop resources and other informative resources for the group. So this could be working on toolkits, projects, helping with conference sessions, stuff like that. It's pretty, it depends on the group what it is exactly, but it's just contributing to help develop the group. And then next we have ownership. This is when the new participants actually take the next step. They're contributing, and now they're actually creating these opportunities for contribution. They're creating new resources, creating opportunities for other people to get involved and for themselves to be involved, and just generally taking the initiative. Next slide, please.
I'm going to just jump in here to acknowledge Aaron. Thank you for jumping back on. Listen, Aaron, if you're able to type in the chat box, what care centers are you from, or what parts of the country? And also, if we're going and there's something and you have questions about it, please feel free to type in there. And Becky, if we get questions, because I don't know if you can see the questions box, I will unmute myself and jump in and let you know.
That would be great. Yeah, just let me know if there's any questions. So this next slide here, we have the different stages of our team. There are 5 general stages. The first one is the potential. This is when the patients and parents or anyone generally who's involved wants to do more, but they don't really have much more involvement beyond being interested in being involved. So then stage 2 is formation of the team. This is when the team members move from awareness to contribution. So they're moving from knowing about the group to actually participating in the group and helping develop resources. But the organizer is still doing most of the work for this stage. Then stage 3 is a team. This is when at least one other person besides the organizer is in a leadership role. And this is when the group has periodic contact points. This can be monthly calls, bi-weekly calls, bi-monthly calls, emails, text messages even, just some sort of communication points. Stage 4 is development. This is when there's 4 or more people in the group that have a leadership role other than the organizer. And because of this and the fact that it is self-sustaining, the group has the potential to grow exponentially. And then that leads into stage 5, transformation. With that exponential growth, the team eventually is able to split into 2 teams. So this hasn't actually occurred yet in ICN, but this would be the next stage for a couple of our groups. Next slide, please. So what are the action items for these different stages? For stage 1, we have potential. So we want to get these people that are aware involved. So you can build lists of how to get these people involved, different opportunities to do so, hold one-on-one talks or emails or any kind of communications, and just make sure communication between these members is happening regularly. So then stage 2, make sure you hold a lot of opportunities for involvement. Make sure to keep recruiting people, make sure they're participating, they know what's going on, when and how to get involved, and just generally having a lot of opportunities for involvement. Then stage 3, this is when you invest in developing skills in these new people that are joining. So you can have them contribute to different projects that they may not necessarily be contributing on in that level, just helping develop new ways for them to develop new leaders. So that's kind of like an example of what the community engagement learning series are right now. I myself, I'm in the PAC, and here I am helping lead a training module. So yeah, that's what stage 3 is, just helping foster those new leaders. So stage development is going to be deliberately continuing to present those involvement opportunities, and especially opportunities for leadership and development. So this is really escalating involvement, escalating development of leaders, and just generally trying to get the team up to the next stage. Next slide, please. All right.
So I'm gonna jump in now, and I actually want to stay on this slide for just a second. And Becky did a fantastic job, so please don't take it as no that. I was thinking while you were talking, I wanted to provide some specific examples that I've heard from care centers that I've worked with at the care center level of things they do in each of these stages. So stage 1 is when they're figuring out, how they're going to let parents and patients and family members know about the opportunity to be involved in their care center. Some care centers do this by handing out a flyer or another type of card, or hanging up a poster in their waiting room. Some care centers have iPads or paper follow-up cards, and they offer them to parents or to patients and family members when they come in for appointments. And they start developing their list of people who want to be involved and plugging them into activities that they have or that are going on. And they also figure out how they're going to communicate with that group on a regular basis. Some use Facebook, some use have an email newsletter, some have paper newsletters, right? But how are you going to create a conversation? During the formation phase, they're usually when team meetings, either over the phone or in person, start. And if, depending on the involvement of the clinical staff, this could be when a parent starts to attend QI meetings. And when they start to figure out what different focuses they want to have. Do they want to work on developing tools with the clinical staff and coming up with new ways to make things easier on parents? An example, or parents and patients, an example of that is Kansas City Mercy produced a discharge, like a one-pager discharge fact sheet that was designed to help make sure patients and their families were getting their questions answered as they were being discharged. Or do they want to start to meet on a regular basis and hold events that allow patients and their family members to connect with each other? Lots of centers do events like that. Or do they want to do educational events and pick different areas of living with IBD and ask experts to come in and talk to patients and parents? So those types of things get decided then. And then when the team is developed is when you have the capacity to do multiple projects at one time, and there's a different member of the team who's leading the different projects. And so I just wanted to touch on that with some specific examples that I found. I want to talk about the different roles and give specific examples of what roles could exist at a care center or exist in some teams already. I also want to say that they're very center specific or group specific, and so you may not see something here that you may listen to all these and be like, those aren't the right fit for where I am. That's fine. That's one of the beauties of the Snowflake model of organizing, is that the archetype roles are going to be similar from center to center, the organizer, the coordinators, the team members, but what the specific subject areas are may vary from place to place. So I want to start out with the organizer. This is the person in the center that's going to be coordinating all the activity. They are the person who shows up to most of the meetings. You could also call them the agitator, and this is usually one of the first people who will be or get involved. If you're looking for somebody to fill this role, some things that successful organizers tend to have in common: they're consensus builders, they're communicative, they're responsive, they can identify strengths and needs in others, and they can connect with people from lots of different backgrounds. This is going to be the person who's most engaged, at least at first, in building the team. And what they do. So they may meet with people one-on-one, whether that be new team members or members of the clinical staff. They're the ones who are going to, at least at first, while the team is building, send out the invites for meetings or for projects. They're going to help track success and celebrate things. They're going to share and bring ideas from other teams they connect with. And then if this person is a patient or parent, this will usually be the main point of contact with the clinical staff, right? So the person who serves as the liaison between the two. So coordinators, and I'll give examples of what these roles can be. These are task masters. You could also call them project managers instead of coordinators. But there are people who are going to run specific projects that focus on maybe one subject area. They have a passion for that area. They're able to think on their feet and solve problems and to identify the interests of different team members. You see 4 of them here in this example. There are not, I cannot think of one, maybe one, care center right now that has a structure that is all the way built out like that. Most places are in some version of like stage 1 to stage 3, and so there may be a team that has 1 or 2 people who are working on specific topics or subjects, and the whole team may only be 4 or 5 people, and so I know this is what it looks like when it's all the way built out, but I don't want anybody to think that it has to be all the way that built out to be successful. There have only been a handful of times in the 10 years I've been organizing where it's looked like this, fully formed and going. So these are some examples of subject areas that coordinators could fill. So somebody could be a community builder, and they would be the point person for building the team. So they would work with the clinical staff to figure out how they're going to introduce the team, how they're going to introduce team and projects to patients and their family members. They may organize activities in and out of the center, like education or awareness days, or if they do Take Steps Walk, or what is it? Spin for Crohn's. There's another one like Take Steps that is doing bicycles, doing spin class. I sound like I'm 105 years old. They may set and track growth or activities. So say your center sets a goal of finding 10 new parents over the next X time period. This would be the person who would track that. And then they or people in their group would be those who, when somebody expresses interest in being involved, they reach out to them, they introduce themselves and the team and say, hey, here are the different things we're working on, here's when we meet and how we communicate, what needs do you have, how can we help meet those needs, and are any of these things you're interested in being involved in. Becky, you actually, the National Patient Advisory Council actually has a role that's very similar to this, and it's what you do. And so do you want to talk about a couple of things that you all do, or that you do in this role?
Yeah, sure. So my role in the Patient Advisory Council is the recruitment and engagement lead. So my job is reaching out to people and getting them onto the Patient Advisory Council, and then making sure they're staying engaged, understanding what's going on, and aware of different opportunities for involvement. So basically how we work is someone signs up for the PAC, we reach out to them over email, and then we set up an orientation call, which is that one-on-one meeting we see in the last bullet. And that orientation call generally takes between like 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how talkative we get. We make sure to foster a caring relationship. We become friendly and talk about our experiences with IBD, and then make sure that we communicate how the PAC works, opportunities for involvement, and what their next steps are. So then this person goes on, they attend the monthly call, and we find out where in the PAC they're interested in getting involved. We set them up so they can talk with the people in charge of that branch and make sure that they are enjoying themselves and staying engaged.
And to give an idea of success, right, or like what what this is. Not everybody you talk to says yes to meeting with you. Some people, they sign up and then they just are on your email list. Or not everybody you talk to ends up going. Can you talk a little bit about how you view success? I want to kind of set the expectation that you may have 5 people sign up, and maybe only 1 or 2 of them may take that next step, but that's okay. People sign up and then get involved at their own pace. I don't know, Becky, if you have any words of wisdom for that, but yeah.
Yeah. So personally, I think that it's success if someone signs up at all. Having anyone sign up for your group is success in itself. Of course, it is great if people do actually follow up on your email and set up a time to talk. That's definitely a big success. We generally in the PAC get 1 person a month to sign up. Sometimes it's busier. Sometimes we get like 3 people that sign up in a month. But generally, we only have a few people a year that actually grow to be involved with a PAC. Now, there are some people who you will try to engage over and over, but they're just not really interested in being very engaged. And at that point, there's not really much you can do. But occasionally, someone will come along, you'll recruit them, and they're very excited to get involved and go on to get a big role and do a lot within the group. Like, for example, Catalina Barenblum, she's one of the current chairs of the PAC. I recruited her my first year that I was doing recruitment for the PAC. I recruited her, I think it was the January after the December I started being the recruitment co-chair, and she immediately got very excited with the group and has been doing a lot and is clearly now the chair of the group. So yeah, that doesn't happen too often. So I would say it's really a success in itself if you have people signing up. And then if that's to like baseline, if your group has that occurring plenty already, then I'd say just having a couple people join a year is success as well.
Thank you. The only thing I have to add is that for the people who don't sign up right away, having that communication method, whether it be an e-newsletter or a Facebook group or some way to keep them looped in so that when they are ready, they know who to reach out to. The next coordinator I would talk about, the liaison to the National Parent Working Group or Patient Advisory Council. This is somebody who is on the team who is going to attend the meetings for the National PAC or Parent Working Group. They're going to connect and listen for ideas. A lot of ideas are shared for other things that are going on in the country, and so they can connect those ideas or bring new ideas back to the group. Talk about new resources that may be available. For example, if somebody was a patient advisory council liaison, they would be able to come back and tell the team about their new toolkit that's going to come out in early December. Becky, remind me what that toolkit is. Accommodations, is that right? Accommodations toolkit? Yeah, I think it is. And so this is I saw you unmute yourself, sorry. If I'm wrong, correct me. If not, I'll just keep going. And so they can also share things that you're doing on your team with other people in the country. A storyteller. So this is a person, could also be called their social media manager. Somebody who's going to lead development of specific promotional materials, like a newsletter, or if you have a blog, or managing your Facebook page. They may coach parents and patients on how to share their story on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. Encouraging. They may let other people on your team know about things that are going on network-wide. Sometimes there are Facebook question and answers. The National Patient Advisory Council has Twitter chats from time to time. or specific Instagram campaigns. And then they may help develop materials for education days or other activities. They're going to be somebody, I think on our national team, this department would be called the communications department. But somebody who's going to help tell the story of the team and make sure they're connected to stories that they're hearing from other parts of the network, opportunities to get involved in that way. If they were at a community event, they may take pictures and post them on your Facebook or Instagram or Twitter feed, or send them out an email. The provider engagement lead. So this is if your team is big enough to have somebody who's an organizer and somebody in this role, and it looks like one of the little blue dots fell off. That's disappointing. This is, I'll have to put that back on. This is somebody who would be the connection between the clinical staff and the team, and the person, if your center is able to, the parent who attends either monthly or quarterly quality improvement meetings to share information. This is a role that's typically filled by the organizer or the person who's leading the team as the team is getting up and rolling. But somebody who can work with clinical staff and the parents or patients on the team to identify potential toolkits or new resources or information. They would share or help develop quality improvement projects with the rest of the team, and then participate in development of materials or activities to let the clinical team know what the patient and parent group is doing. And also get feedback from the clinical staff on, areas that things that they may want, or areas that they may need help from patients and their families. And I'm going to talk a little bit about identifying potential team members, and then ask Becky to fill in. So this is one of the things I think of is when you're looking for team members, of identifying people based on, what are qualities that are easy or hard to teach, right? So if you need somebody, the community builder, for example, should probably be a people person, right? This is most likely going to be somebody who's extroverted and is comfortable walking up and talking to lots of different types of people. That's a skill that's hard to teach, right? And so that is something you'd absolutely want to have in that person, or look for in that person when you were thinking about who may fill that role. Whereas, it's easier to teach somebody how to enter data, or how to create an agenda for a meeting. And so looking for, as you're thinking about the roles that would be important to your team, thinking about what you're looking for in that person, and then dividing it into, hey, this is something that it would be fairly easy to teach that person, versus this is something that would be hard to teach, and something I want to look for in them, that they're going to come to the table with already. Becky, you help look for people to fill roles in the past. Any advice or examples of how you've used this stuff?
Yeah, so I've been around in the PAC through multiple different leadership changes, and some common things that I've found to be hard to teach qualities that these leaders have is, again, being a people person. I mean, it's totally fine to have someone who's a little shy or be a leader, but for roles where your main job is to interact with people and really be the one that's like branching out all the time, can be a little tiring for people who maybe aren't as comfortable with that. And like, if beforehand, if you're really experienced with research, or you've done work before with different care providers or research professionals about IBD or ICN related things, that also is a hard to teach quality. And then being patient on there is very important. It's hard to have someone leading a group if they're not patient. And some easier to teach qualities would be like Chris said, like entering data, organizing events, just like creating flyers, doing that outreach kind of thing. Whereas hard to teach skills, like they're less common. Well, it's just like it's harder to teach these people these skills they kind of have to be in that position. Hopefully that helps.
That makes sense. Thank you. And then talking about how to identify folks, and I acknowledge that there's a lack of continuity to 3 steps, but there are actually 4. On identifying team members for roles. So the first thing is to try to figure out what you're looking for. It would be step 0 here. So examples from care centers, Greenville has a great example of this, where they actually wrote out position description. So what they were looking for this person to do, and it helps to clarify with other members of clinical staff or with people who are already on the team what you're looking for in that person. I think the PAC did that too. And then start to look for those interests and talents by listening to people's stories and by asking them why they got involved and what types of things they're interested in. Think about their enthusiasm for the group, and knowing, being able to identify if this is somebody who may want to grow into a leadership role someday, or if they are somebody who they want to show up to meetings, they're perfectly happy to do their part there. They'll come to events, but maybe they don't want to move up into a coordinator role. Build a relationship with that person. Some ways to build relationships. Talk about why you're involved. Talk about what you like to do. Meet with them one-on-one. One-on-one meetings are just a fancy name for connecting with people person to person. So it could be a 15-minute phone call. It could be that you grab coffee with somebody. It could be that they're in clinic and you chat with them for 5 or 10 minutes after their appointment. And this sharing or connecting both between the clinical staff and the team members, and the team members and each other they build important bonds between people. This is one of the reasons why I love icebreakers at every meeting that I'm in, is because it helps people to learn about each other. And then, as somebody is growing in their role, being able to present them with opportunities to demonstrate their skills in their area of interest, this will keep them interested in the team. They'll feel like or know that they're making a difference. They'll feel heard, right? If you earlier ask them for what they're interested in, and then you're finding a role for them on the team that meets that interest, and it's possible that they could eventually take ownership, move up, and be owners of that area of the team. And when you find somebody who you think may want to fill that role, making sure to not just ask them if they're willing to do it without knowing if they can, but give them the opportunity to do the types of tasks that they would be doing, offering them coaching and feedback, and then asking for a specific commitment if you want them to fill that role as a coordinator or as an organizer of a team. So that's the Melissa. That is the whole content part of the presentation that we have. Melissa, please feel free to reach out with questions. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that there's no care center is exactly alike. And so these concepts generally fit with what we're doing, but are going to look a little different at every care center.